absolute right, so fire away.
Okay.
Vicky, did
Well,
you
I
get?
don't know, I wanna have, don't I get royalties or something like that?
No, you're a
Yeah,
public service.
It actually is a fraction of your salary.
Well, so.
Yeah, which, you know the math on that. All right,
Did you get your email straightened out?
No, my work email got hacked, so obviously don't touch my work email. I have to change my email address. And I got infected from someone at work. Even worse, because I haven't gone to this. You told me not to open it.
all right, be that as it may, we're gonna get started. We'll start with the public hearing for the trees. I see a couple of people here who might be associated with that. Is that the possible?
That would be it.
Why don't you come up and sit with us? And I went out, I know you went out, and I know you went out, and it looks completely reasonable, completely reasonable to me.
Yep, yeah, like I said, there's 53 of them, and as you probably saw, there's a fair amount of them that are damaged
Yeah.
from the wing for decades. And I mean, when you have to stop a 11-foot snowplow to pick the wing up, I mean, it's.
It just seemed very reasonable.
And of course, we want to, I haven't priced it yet, I don't know if it's cheaper to have the stumps ground down or dig them out and have them trucked off. I gotta do the comparison on which is cheaper.
Well, wouldn't it make a difference as to how much bank you lose by pulling them out?
Yeah, if it's gonna be a stabilization issue, then sometimes it's easier just to cut the stump low and leave it. I mean, obviously, I won't do anything till the snow's gone and
Why
mud
wouldn't
season's
you just
gone.
leave it?
You could, I mean,
I mean,
Yeah, you could cut it
some of
low,
them are
make
gonna
so the
resprout,
yeah.
you know.
Some of them I want,
blade would go over it.
yeah, some of them I do wanna remove because obviously I wanna just make the road a little
Yeah.
more friendly to the wing.
Yeah,
So a portion of them I wanna remove anyway.
yeah.
Yeah, I looked at it, I think it's fine. The only thing I would say, Steve, is that, my understanding is that with a scenic road,
Mm-hmm.
we really can't widen it. So, you know, we just have to keep that in mind, I think.
Yeah, I
mean,
wasn't gonna cut the banks back and, you know, I wanna make, if I can remove that stump, I think it'll give me, on some of those instances, it'll give me a path for my wing to travel,
Right.
you know.
Right.
and-
But we
It
just
didn't
don't
seem to
wanna-
be actually getting into the road edge, you know, at least some of those
Yeah.
smaller diameter ones.
Yeah, I see what you mean, I'm not gonna just cut the banks back and, you know, make a back slope.
Right, I
and
know it's a
widen it, yeah.
pain, you know, the road's narrow and it's a.
Yeah,
pain.
that's-
It's just-
So-
That's a scenic road, and I think we have to be careful not have it creeping, you know, over the years and having it getting wider, you know.
Yeah,
So, so you're thinking of selectively taking out some of the stumps?
yes, I don't think I'll have to take all the stumps, but like I said, some of the ones where I'm having issues with the width of the wing, especially, where you noticed it was just north of where the, sugar house is on the left. You saw where it's real narrow, there's 2 or 3 right there I know have to go. And there's a few other, I don't know exactly which ones, but there'll be a few stumps.
But you said 53, and now I'm realizing I only looked at 50. I think we'll have to go back
Well,
out.
maybe my count was wrong, I had a clicker and I thought I had 53.
No, I mean, it seems totally reasonable. I think you said we got one letter.
Got one letter
And it was in
from,
support.
Dennis Stern and his wife, and they are perfectly fine.
They're cheering you on.
My wife and I fully support the removal of the trees,
Here, here.
so.
So,
Somebody's gonna do that, you're gonna get somebody to come in.
I think, you know, once mud season's all out of the way, I'm gonna cut the ones I can safely cut. There's gonna be some that, you know, I'm gonna have, it's cheaper to have a logger come than have a tree people come and charge $1,000 plus a tree. I can have a logger come with a fellow buncher, grab them, lay them down. And I haven't determined yet, I don't have any landowners say whether they want the wood, whether they want me to take the brush, leave the tree, you know.
so you'll be checking with them, or?
Yeah, I need to check with them and find out what they want done. If not, I'll haul it all in a truck
There's
and,
a lot of good wood there, because most of those.
It's
are
hardwood.
Maple, yeah,
Right.
most of those trees are maple. It's
So-
too bad they're not all poplar.
yeah.
I mean,
So if the landowner doesn't want it, then maybe I could do what we typically do and put the pile down in the dirt where we rent some of the property on the Derby Mountain pit and give it to I think there's a pile of wood down there that they give to people in town that want it.
those guys.
Yeah, so we could leave the logs down there if the landowner doesn't want it.
Yeah, that'd be great.
I did, in the notification letter, I did say if you want the wood from your property, talk to Steve,
Yeah.
and he'll,
That's great.
so, and I notified everybody along the road.
So they're already notified.
They were notified of this hearing, and then within the hearing, you know, within.
With the letter.
With the letter, it also said,
Okay,
and if you want any of that wood, let Steve know, and he will.
okay.
take care of it for you.
All right, anybody have any other questions or comments? All right, so we have to, we need to write a letter, or it has to be written consent, it said in the RSA.
Yeah, so I'll write up a letter,
Okay.
have you sign it, that says,
It
go for it.
Looks
We'll put it
fine.
in the file for
Okay,
the Orfordville Road.
okay.
We need a motion.
Yeah, yes, we do.
Okay.
We're gonna do that now.
No, we're just gonna write a
Yeah,
letter.
we're,
Go ahead.
we'll write a letter and then we'll vote.
Well, we're all agreeing, but.
Yeah, I'd like to make a motion to approve the planned cutting of the 53
All of
trees.
the trees that Steve has indicated.
Mark,
Right.
Mark.
And do I hear a second?
Yep.
And a third? All right, all those in favor say aye. All those opposed? All right, thank you very much.
All right, thank you. Yep, have a good night.
You too. We're not, we don't have a cake.
Well, this was.
Oh, this was a cake. Well, it was four,
All right,
four,
okay,
four votes.
all right.
Yeah,
I will just note that.
yeah, note that there were four votes, sorry.
Why do you think he shows up every time?
Yes, no, somebody's gotta remind me.
Yeah, sorry, I was a little late.
All right, the minutes. Minutes.
I didn't,
They seem fine
have
to me.
anything, I didn't have
Okay.
no typos, no.
Okay, now, do I have to appoint David to vote for the minutes?
No.
Okay, I'll go by that. Okay, so, anybody wanna make a motion on the minutes?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes as submitted to us.
Okay,
I'll second.
all those in favor, aye? All those opposed? All right, so, the next item is the, our 2018 planning goals. I was assigned, to make a housing chapter. Outline.
I fell down on my duties, and I got distracted, I'm sorry.
Why, were you gonna do that too?
No, I was gonna give you some ideas, and I
Well,
actually
you-
started, but I did not send you anything.
It's very basic.
Okay.
I used, I think, Hanover and Deering, just for, yeah, these two things that I think maybe you gave us, or somebody gave us.
Somebody gave us-
Um,
I wouldn't know.
Anyway, so I have a very basic thing here. You wanna make copies?
Sure.
for-
Not quite dramatic reading.
Yes.
Stand up.
Horatio. Yeah, So, I'll wait until.
You sent the letter, right, to the
David did,
community?
yes, yes. I incorporated everybody, it was difficult to, everybody had a, there were a couple of agreements, but I did the best I could.
So we didn't see that.
Oh, no.
Better to be able to say, I didn't see
Yeah.
it.
It was like 99% the same.
Right.
All right, well, we gotta wait. What's new?
Looking for beehives.
You're looking for beehives? Literally?
True fact. Yep. I have a friend in Hanover who raised bees before, and he's sort of looking for something to do. He's retired, and,
Oh, so you're looking on behalf of him?
well, both of us. I
Do
mean,
you,
I-
do you
I-
ra- do you
I-
raise?
In the past I have,
Oh.
and so I figured, let's see what we can find. Don't get stung enough, so, you know.
But you have raised, I mean, you have, over.
I
and
never
you-
got any honey out of them because I was telling Dave that when we, I finally, you know, went through the summer and then I sold the house and I couldn't take the beehives with me. And so I sold it to somebody else.
But you got stung?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, they used to do these, isn't it?
I don't think it's a matter of if you get stung, it's when.
How much?
Or hang
Right,
on,
I
how
mean,
much?
you know, and you get better as time goes on.
God. All right, so why don't you read this and,
Absolutely.
And do you need me to send the other sheet?
No, I have,
you're all of our public.
usually if I know the public, I
Okay.
write it down, but it's the one that says a lot of the people I don't know that come, so then,
Right. Okay.
the Steve and Scotty I know, so we got them.
What about, mentioning in this first part about having our little housing events,
Oh, the,
right, that we
Okay.
sponsored the
right,
one
right,
on,
that's, yeah, absolutely.
senior and the,
Senior and millennial.
millennial housing, yeah, cause we, I mean, we learned something.
Yeah, we did, oh, I actually, I thought we learned
We
quite a
learned a
bit.
lot about millennials.
No, we learned a lot about
So,
various things I wasn't aware of. Good point.
So, we interact with the author? Is this a good
Yeah,
time?
that's why you're,
Okay,
of
okay.
course.
So, tax information and comparisons, what were you envisioning in for that section?
Just, I mean, I wrote that as a general heading, information about taxes and, well,
Well, wouldn't that be in its own chapter?
I don't know.
Not necessarily about housing, I mean, it would be good just to have, I mean, I
It's,
don't know, I don't
that's
know what-
fine
I
with
don't
me.
know what the
I wrote
point
this
is,
down
so-
simply as a rough outline, and everybody on the board should,
I mean, if we're gonna say something like, you know, residential structures comprise 90% or 95% of our assessed valuation, something like that, is that what you're thinking about? Or how housing contributes
Yeah.
to the tax base, or what's the,
Or maybe comparing with other towns.
yeah, I mean, there's a whole bunch
regions.
of possibilities. Like, you can have comparisons, you can talk about how much it contributes to the tax base. Yeah,
I didn't know what you know, like,
I-
what would be the takeaway that we would get from that? I mean, is there, I don't
it's
get
just
that.
information.
Yeah, but
I think
tax
it
is a
might
lot.
be,
So what would you say would be?
I would say, you know, comparison of, tax rates, in Lyme versus other towns for residential properties to show whether Lyme is high, low, in the middle, you know, wherever it lies, that,
I mean, the rate itself.
or the rate, or.
I would put that in its own, that is something where we had, you know, some of those community development people, like, have them write a thing about taxes. I think we should maybe not,
The problem when you get into tax
Not
comparisons
talk about
is you gotta make sure you're not comparing apples and oranges.
Right, but each
You
town
can't
says.
compare Lyme to say Lebanon or Hanover, it's
Right.
not even close.
Well, like
You gotta look
Orford.
for towns that are similar in size and
Right.
infrastructure.
But see, Orford, for instance, Jay, their tax rate is higher than ours, but their taxes are actually probably lower, because the same house in Lyme and Orford, it would be assessed higher in Lyme.
Or let's
So
go
it's-
where I'm kind of thinking of that maybe, it's gonna be kind of hard to show assessments with, comparables around the Upper Valley, that's.
All right, so why don't we?
One town that we looked at when we were doing comparisons, when I first came on the board, it had been researched quite a bit, and they came up that Newbury was closer to anybody else as far as demographic and,
being kind of more of a
Size.
bedroom community and all.
yeah,
Yeah.
Newbury, New Hampshire.
yeah.
I mean, where is that? I didn't even know
It's
that.
It's
down
on the
Lake
lake,
Sunapee,
yeah.
so they've got some tax base along the lake, which we don't have.
All right, so why don't we just put this in parentheses?
Right, well, I would think it'd be important to talk about the amount that, of our tax base that is residential, And I was just trying to think about, like, could you have an average assessed value, you know, for housing, just as a comparative figure, you know, across towns, but you get so much that's also added into it. I mean, what is the typical 3-bedroom, 2-bath place? Because even within a single community, just based on the neighborhood, that changes. And then we have to figure out how to hold it, you know, constant for the amount of acreage you want with it.
It's pretty difficult.
I just don't think we wanna go there, because it's like we have to make assumptions, but we do know what percentage.
We know the percentage of the tax
Yeah,
base.
I think that that's important,
Okay,
to know, but it's
Percentage of
probably,
the tax base.
yeah,
Yeah.
how much it contributes
you know.
to the, is it not, 90%?
Institutional compared to commercial,
Commercial,
compared to
yeah.
residential, and that would include not just the house, but, you know.
I mean, we have those figures, I think, in the old master plan.
Maybe. The
Um,
old master plan.
the old master
No,
plan.
the old master plan is the master plan,
Yeah,
yeah, so.
all right, what else you got?
Well,
Recommendations.
Right,
they're
recommendations?
up in number 2, objectives and recommendations.
Oh, okay,
are
I see
there.
usually the way the current master plan's formatted, they come at the end.
Yeah, they probably,
We can do it any
we
way
can,
we want.
yeah, I mean, they should probably come at the end, I think you're right.
Some people don't make it to the end, so.
Well, that's what I was thinking,
Yeah,
is
Put them up front.
put the good stuff.
No, put them at the end to make them go through.
make
No,
them
but
have
they
to read.
they fall asleep before they get there.
But we should probably keep it consistent.
Mhm.
I was just thinking, that way you have the opening and you have the big deal stuff, and then
Mhm.
if they wanna read the rest of the stuff, they can. But it should be I think it should be consistent, it should come at the end, otherwise it just doesn't fit with the rest.
You know, we have a professional author, he should be able to write this, and it's interesting enough to keep people awake.
Well, you should be able to illustrate it to keep people awake.
Yeah, you need cartoons for that.
Yeah.
So, what I'm thinking about is, like, we should divide this up, probably,
Okay.
amongst.
Yeah, yeah,
Like the fellows who worked on the workforce housing chapter, one of you all should, or worked on that study, should summarize that for that section.
yes, but we're gonna have that as an appendix
Yeah, well, we Yeah, I think-
available in the.
Oh, I think
yeah.
everyone should be able to see that.
See it,
But
yeah.
you don't wanna.
Don't wanna,
have to-
no, it's
you
just
need
like
to have the
A
takeaways
nightmare, yeah.
and the thing about workforce housing.
But just so long as people can
You see the raw data.
see the raw data.
Yeah, yeah. And actually, the workforce housing element, I think, should go up under number 5, cost of housing, you know? Is that, that's what
Yeah, well,
defines it.
these topics to be covered, I didn't know exactly where to put them,
Right,
so
right.
that'd be fine.
Uh-huh.
So inclusionary zoning, I don't know if a lot of people are gonna know what that means.
Well, we'll explain it.
We don't have to call it inclusionary zoning.
Yeah, it's just so that, informational.
Yeah, so just explaining the zoning, how it affects it.
Well, this particular type of zoning,
When you wanna have like the comprehensive data, what exact data, I mean, does everybody wanna know more about? So,
well, I mean,
from.
using, for instance, well, here, which one is this? This is Hanover.
I don't know, that's the one I-
Okay, I got another one here.
Because in some cases, we don't have comparable census information.
Yeah, we may
through the-
not,
through
but-
the pages, but I just don't wanna like add what should we try hardest to?
I mean, there's
Yeah.
just so many, there's a lot of data that is just not gonna be
Well, okay, so
that helpful, but there's just so many,
what tells the story, the age of the housing?
yes,
Okay, so housing age, that's one
Well,
thing.
housing age,
Owner or renter, if we can get at that.
right.
Okay, so that's
Let me
owner,
just
renter,
get through here.
okay.
From the information I have, determining renters is a difficult,
Yeah, I know, we had a lot of trouble.
Well, the census asked that.
so that may be,
I don't know if that's still something they've reported, I just haven't.
One of the big problems with the census is the timing of us doing this, which it's 2018 and that's a 2010.
Well, you guys, when you did your workforce housing,
Yeah,
you looked at, like, accessory,
Rentals.
yeah, you
We looked at what?
rentals?
Rentals, yeah.
We
We
looked
tried
at
to-
rentals. We felt pretty strongly that we were undercounting because we just couldn't.
Right,
There's a lot of unknown rentals,
yeah,
so.
but you did have that, so
We
we
have-
have
we
that
had- we have
information
that,
as of
yeah.
mid-decade.
We were fairly
So,
accurate. I think.
Yeah, well, just to be able to pull that out, I mean, our is better because, I mean, renters are underrepresented in terms of
Definitely,
responses, and
yeah.
so the census, you know, isn't 100% accurate.
Anyway, here are some of the
Yeah,
many options: of population and housing growth over a period of time, housing supply by type,
so the type is by single family.
single family, multifamily, manufactured,
Okay,
housing occupancy,
so that's just vacant or
yeah,
occupied?
yeah, and seasonal occupied. I mean, what
Yeah.
Deering did was occupied
That's,
vacancy.
those are old census categories.
Yeah, so maybe,
Yeah,
these are possibilities: ages of houses, the number of bedrooms,
uh-huh.
change in housing,
What's changed in housing?
change in housing density,
What's change in housing again?
change in
Is that just
housing,
number of units?
per square mile,
Okay, but the first one is, that's the density, so.
change in housing density
Oh, change in housing density,
over time.
okay. Do we want that?
I don't know. I'm just giving you the options. I don't have, there's some I could definitely think we
I
should
don't
have.
think
mean,
it's
our-
changed much in the last 10 years.
Well, yeah, or even, okay, well,
I
anyway.
mean, when you think about it, the real change has been, from, you take when zoning started, wherever you've had the larger subdivisions, you've got more dense housing, out on Whipple Hill,
Yeah,
that area where,
Yeah.
that huge subdivision, and then it's
Yeah.
just kind of scattered.
yeah,
Because there were a few years, well, for 6 or 7 years, we had hardly any new houses in Lyme
right.
during the recession.
After 2008,
Yeah.
yeah.
So we'd wanna know about population, because that's the
Population
kind
increase,
of
for sure.
housing,
Yeah.
and the age of the population.
Population for sure.
And then what kind of units that would put a demand on.
And then housing costs.
Yep,
We're getting rental cost information is really difficult.
well, Lynn's the person because she maintains those lists.
Who?
Lynn LaBombard, who came and talked to us about millennial housing.
About in
She-
Lyme?
She talked, yeah, well, she,
Well, could you,
twice a year, she does a report on rental housing
could you
costs.
talk to her about getting that
Yeah, I'll see
information?
it.
Yeah, so all that rental
I
information,
mean, that's not easy to come by, but she
No.
like tracks that because she's always looking for housing for people.
and then, cost of buying a home over time.
What do you mean by, what do they use as that?
The housing cost.
Yeah.
Well, no, do you adding in interest
Housing
rates?
costs, there's the cost of buying a home.
Is it just like the value of the house you're talking about?
Yeah, as
Okay.
opposed to,
Well, sometimes you add in like what the interest rate is, or like, closing cost type things,
I
that
think-
was added into.
I think just,
Just the cost of the house.
It's-
Yeah,
that's what I was
I
thinking.
didn't know what that is, cause
Yeah.
just
yeah,
making
this is
sure we
it's
do.
a,
Yeah,
just keep
and is
getting.
the source on that the New York Housing Finance, or is that the source the US Census?
This is actually, they used the Northern New England Real Estate Network, so.
Okay,
Household size,
Nope.
new residential building permits. Yeah, so that's most of the stuff.
Right. So basically it comes down to supply and demand, or something about the cost. And something about like the housing stock. Just that character.
Right.
Are you interested in, I mean, the number of properties that have changed hands, sales?
Sure.
Because that's, the tax
Turnover,
assessor
population
does,
Yeah.
does track sales. And so,
Yeah, I think that's
you know,
good.
you can look back and say, all right, how many, over the last 10 years, how many properties have changed, have been sold?
Right.
Because that kind of gives you an idea of the turnover rate.
So you're getting all these?
No, I thought you were,
Does the
Well,
assessor, does the assessor?
You're getting all these?
I got a lot of them.
Well,
I'm
okay,
sure I
but
got every
does
single
the,
one.
Well,
I got a lot.
did you get all?
Writing down?
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay, so
Okay, so
David has it.
what was, I think, important as a indicator of demand is the days on the market.
Right.
And
that I don't think.
it's not just like.
Well,
how it
that we can
turns
get
over.
off of websites, because I've seen that on the real estate websites, if they're
For
dependable.
individual properties,
Yeah,
or is it?
for individual properties,
Yeah,
if
so that's the
they'll
thing,
tell
is
you.
if they've, like taken a snapshot every April 1st and, gone back through the year and, how many changed hands, how many was the average day on, days on the market, and if they, segmented that by number
Yeah, I
of
don't,
bedrooms.
I'm
or
looking
like
at just,
that.
what the tax assessor is collecting for information, and we can look at, anything that had, there is a sale date for all properties, and so we can look at that, property and say, this is what the sale date was, and know that it changed hands.
But none of that's
None.
aggregated,
No,
No.
not at all.
and then,
We don't have
So I
a
do
full-time
remember
assessor,
somebody putting out a-
contract of assessor.
I remember somebody's talking about the master plan, about when we had the community meetings versus when it finally was completed. I remember somebody throwing out a 30% turnover number.
Yeah, I've
As
heard
an-
that
as-
too.
Per year.
in support of it,
No, overall.
since in that
Yeah.
time frame.
Actually, I think that's pretty normal, because I was looking at the existing master plan, and, don't hold me to this, but if I'm remembering correctly, it asked how long people lived in Lyme, and I think it said, within 5 years, 0 to 5 years was something like 25%. So I think that's been the trend for a while.
the census has that information, so we
Yeah.
have that historically, but whether or not we can update it. is the question.
Yeah, that's difficult.
Yeah, well, we might be able to if somebody's aggregated that to do this.
Because I remember it was in the context of somebody saying, hey, I wasn't here.
Right.
Right.
We need to redo this master plan.
Well,
from
that's,
scratch."
the problem with that master plan was, it took I think the whole visioning and survey process took over 2 years, maybe.
Yeah.
3 years.
3 years. And then just as that was as it came to an end, there were several years of huge turnover on the board. So just there was no continuity, no institutional memory, so finally just got done. That was difficult.
That's probably something that will always be, a force in the background of,
Well,
any kind of process like this.
People who
Yeah.
say that, then you ask them specifically, what don't they agree with? I mean, to try to, we're not gonna go back, and so,
Right.
if we're in the middle of a process, so, what's different for you? And try to probe and find out what they're having dissonance about.
Right.
And-
Well, there was, as I recall, there was that's the nature of the beast, is there was dissonance throughout the
Right from the get-go.
no, from the visioning process and the survey. People were unhappy with the survey, they were unhappy with I mean, some people
The
were.
survey was really
Well, anybody that
long.
doesn't agree with the survey is gonna be unhappy with it, so just the way it is.
Whatever, but it's not an easy process.
No.
It's not easy for the whole town, it's not easy for the planning board, but it's a necessary process. All right, other thoughts?
Now, has somebody done a similar type of piece about this issue on a regional level? And maybe we could take that regional summary or whatever and say, boom,
Well,
and
they've
then
got
this
a
is how
whole
Lyme
report.
fits into that.
Yeah, that would be good.
They've got a
Yeah.
fair share housing report, and that I think they're working on updating now, but that was maybe done like 10 years ago, so.
Because it seems like, I mean, Lyme is definitely not a self-contained
No, it's part of the
anything,
market.
it's, you know, the Upper Valley is definitely a very, and it's across state lines
I
too,
mean,
which is also an
Yeah, I
interesting
mean, a lot of the
complication.
problems that Lyme has are problems that a lot of towns across both states are having. So, yeah, that would be valuable.
Well, it was interesting hearing Merle Weinberger talk about,
Who's-
he's the mayor of Burlington.
Yeah,
He's running again.
yeah,
So he was talking about the development and how to, fund things like redoing Memorial Hall, which is a public event venue there, and how is the city gonna afford those kinds of improvements. And so, I mean, every town's faced with the same thing, how do you keep your infrastructure supported? And how do you accommodate growth without changing the character of the place?
well, a lot of places have I mean, in this state, we have just our property taxes, which is hard on a lot of property owners. Other states have additional tax revenue too.
Well, he was saying, how do we keep Burlington from becoming like a Palo Alto, where you don't have middle class and no entry-level
Right.
housing for younger people to come back to.
Yeah.
And, it's the same thing that we've got going here, so.
Yeah, I'm kind of
Just my friends in Vermont are complaining about their property taxes too.
yeah.
Um,
I'm just surprised that in a city of that size, because that they'd have that difficult a time, because it's easier where you can have a lot of volume, and they certainly do have areas with a lot of volume.
Well, he was actually talking about mixed-use development and having commercial first floors and rental second, third floor, and not increasing building height, because it would be out of scale with the community. I mean, it's the same stuff, but,
Yeah. No,
but it's just a different scale.
Yeah, I'm aware of that.
Yeah.
All right, what else?
What else? I think the thing on ADUs is really important to have. And, I mean, what other topics did you write about, for your little housing essays that you wrote?
Well,
for
those
the
were,
Citizens Letter?
those were basically inclusionary zoning
And,
topics.
they all were, or,
Yeah.
yeah, okay, well, that's okay, because I didn't want them to be left out, because that's, good work that we could,
Yeah, that could
add
be-
in here,
yeah.
because it's good narrative, and informative stuff.
Can I ask a question
Sure.
about, term of art, inclusionary zoning?
Those are the parts of the ordinance where, like, what used, I mean, now,
Article 13, or
Yeah.
About 12 or 13?
Well, like affordable housing, what are some of the other
Actually,
ones?
Article 11.
Yeah, the ADUs used to be inclusionary zoning, but now they're state, now they're required. So the inclusionary stuff is, and like the cluster housing, you know, that sort of stuff, where there's there are discretionary elements. They're actually, the right term might be innovative zoning techniques,
Cluster,
yeah, which might be more accurate than inclusionary.
I don't think we need to use stuff, it's like, how do we get more housing, or, you know, those are, instead of calling it inclusionary zoning.
What?
Well, what are ways to
Oh, yeah, I
get
mean,
diversity
instead
in
of-
housing stock or something like that, rather than calling it inclusionary zoning, because that
It's, yeah.
makes it sound technical, and, well, it is
So-
technical.
Or innovative.
All right, so how do we,
Yeah, I mean, that's how we, you know, like, how do we encourage diversity in
Okay.
our housing stock, or different kinds of housing situations, or something like that? People,
all right, so we'll do away with inclusionary zoning.
we'll just call it something else.
How to encourage diversity.
And I think the smart growth is,
Yeah, I was
something
gonna
that's dealt with in our land use chapter already.
Okay, so take that out.
Well, we can, I think we have to talk about, the housing density and patterns of
Well, that's part of
housing
smart growth.
across the town, but I think we could just, you know, what we have in our land use chapter is, you know, a good start to that, yeah. So that, or we call it residential land use and density or something like that. But the kind of anti-sprawl principle is really important, and that's very much reinforced by where we allow, you know, that denser housing to be developed.
So I've seen smart growth apply to different things. Like developers sometimes will, you know, like David Clem
Well,
will.
everybody has their idea what smart
Yeah,
growth is.
so I was
Well,
unsure if we had a
New
specific
Jersey or-
definition that we worked out off of, or.
No.
Yeah.
There's, all right, so let's just do away with
Like
these,
high-tech
let's do
biotech
away with these
development.
terms that are at all
Right.
confusing.
So we could just call it residential land use and density, it could be the smart growth thing. Usually there's a component of like mixed use with
All
that
right.
and transit, but we don't have any here. But we do our park and ride.
All right,
Very nice parking
It is,
what else you got?
especially when you park your car and ride your bike, which a lot of people do. They don't use it for carpool, they use it for recreation.
All right, so how about, how are we gonna break this down? I think we should assign the majority of it to Eric and Amber.
Actually, yeah, because actually Amber's a good writer and Eric's a financial whiz.
That's right. He's good
So,
with
all right,
numbers.
so we'll have Eric and Amber do all of it.
All right, I'll just put that in the minutes.
Yeah, put that on the
Well, and we could say that we could help them. We could-
Yeah, we'll be happy to comment on your work.
Yeah. We could ask them to
Yeah,
help.
so I agree with you that one of us who worked on the workforce housing and
Yeah,
and
that was
the,
Eric, right?
that was Eric.
It was Eric and John and I, but Eric had all the numbers kind of
Right,
together.
so Eric should do that.
Yeah.
That's what you get when you don't show up.
All right, so he's gonna do, Eric gets the,
I think you should also put a very heavy percentage of the work on the select board representative.
right, yeah, you still
Go
have,
for it.
you still have another week, right, or 2 weeks, you could do a
Well,
lot
I'm
of this.
thinking that after the 2 weeks.
You look very motivated tonight, you know, you have that motivated look.
Actually, I think your emeritus position will make you an automatic alternate.
Yeah, that would be nice.
It would be nice.
You have any thoughts of being an alternate?
No.
Now, take,
Or yes.
take a moment to think that over. Don't be rash.
Okay, go.
Well, what about now? Okay, so we're not gonna get any work out of him, so.
Yeah, but I'm thinking his replacement in a few weeks will,
Well, yeah, well, when we get the replacement, we'll assign them stuff.
Yeah.
All right, so that's, we got,
I can write about the like land use and stuff.
what section is that?
AKA smart growth,
What was called smart
yeah,
growth?
that, you know,
Okay, so
residential
that's-
density and,
All right, that's Vicky.
current location and, you know, historic patterns. You guys, where did you find the multi-dwelling buildings? I mean, that would be best shown on a map.
We found them in the, we had a list, you just go on
You do it on the map?
I do not have it on the map,
Okay.
but it's something we could map out fairly easily.
Does that make sense? Then we can
To
see
do what?
where the multifamily
oh,
buildings
just,
are.
you mean a visual,
Yeah, just a map.
Sure.
Map tells like a million things. And
we can get that, David?
Well, what I'll do is I'll just have Todd give me a list of all the multi-dwelling buildings by map and lot,
Right.
and then I can just,
Okay.
It could be every house in town except for
We
mine.
could build a Google map.
Yeah. No, but I mean, I think
Collaborative.
that's kind of informative because,
Multi-layer,
you know, if we need to like go, oh, we didn't realize there are already all these multi-dwelling buildings in this area of town,
Right.
and maybe we wanna consider
Could you
changing
really
the
do a
zoning.
Google, you could do a Google map?
Yeah, I mean, you're just dropping pointers and, but you can link.
You are, you
Well,
are,
we give him the list of addresses, right? But we'd rather have that as a GIS layer.
yeah, I can create it as a GIS later
Okay.
and overlay all, you know,
So, but that wouldn't include
the
ADUs,
parcel layers
would it?
I don't know how we,
what was the question?
Whether it would include ADUs or not. I mean, if they're
it's multi-dwelling,
If they're
three or
attached,
more,
it would be ADU.
three or more,
It'd be three or more, which
It's not
ADU
even-
not necessarily, would not
No, it has to
necessarily be,
Three or more.
yeah.
well, an ADU wouldn't, well, no, it wouldn't be a multi-dwelling because it's
Right.
only, if it's attached, it's only two. If
Right.
it's detached, it's
So
not.
the multi-dwelling is three or more.
Yeah.
That's what we would
Right.
want to see.
Okay.
Do we have where there's two?
I may be able to,
I mean, just putting all that on one map with, you know,
yeah, that would be great.
the different, you know,
Well,
single families are one color, the twos are another, and threes are,
Or just layers that you turn on and off.
yeah.
yeah, that's very easy to do.
Yeah, that'd be great, because then we could see actually the distribution across town, and that informs us as if we need to change the zoning so we don't have, you know, non-conforming uses or patterns or, I think it's informative.
All right, so I'll rewrite, add the things to the, what's just gonna be the introduction to the draft, not to the,
Right,
but,
It's a
I'd
draft.
also, I'd be willing to do the introduction,
okay,
or at least
Okay.
what I can do of it.
I can do objectives and I'll do some objectives. I mean, basically, they're like,
Well,
they're gonna be, put them up, guys, and we can talk about, you know, are these the things we want our housing to do?
yeah, I think the really objectives and the recommendation are gonna have to wait, we
The
should wait,
Recommendations are gonna be wait,
yeah.
but there's some objectives we can, I mean, I think,
So these samples, are these online? Are
You know, I don't know where I got them.
I think
Did you give them to
quite a
us?
while ago, I printed them out.
Yeah, you.
Yeah, I guess
Gave them out.
David, so,
I don't know if I even have copies of them.
you can go
Yeah.
online and look at the Hanover, any chapter, and
Yeah.
pretty much every town.
yeah, they're
has a
probably
section.
all online.
I'm assuming.
It's like, take your favorite town and Google their
Yeah.
master plan, and then you can go to their housing chapter.
Yeah.
What's the town that has the rocket? Is that,
Or,
okay,
I don't know how, oh, they might, I mean.
that's my favorite town.
Is it?
The rocket
yeah,
tank.
the
A
rock.
town that has a rocket.
Well, there's that, and they have like rules about what your mailbox looks like, because everybody has the same mailbox.
Really?
Yeah, well, I think the state must have, when they repaved and redid the, what is it, 118 going up there? Or no, it's a 25, it's still on 25. They must have taken out everybody's mailbox and then done a bulk purchase at Home Depot. Everybody has a matching mailbox. You can't like go, oh yeah, the red mailbox, that's my house. Everyone needs the same.
All right, does anybody else wanna write about something?
We don't really have survey results, do we, or do
No,
you
we don't,
want me to
we
go
don't have
back?
survey results.
I
We
did
need,
ask Patty,
you what?
I did ask
Yeah.
Patty about
Oh,
the
CCL.
Yeah.
the CCL surveys, and she said she would talk to them and get them. With the town meeting coming up, she has been
Sure.
very distracted, and then she's
Yeah.
going
Yeah.
to South Carolina for
Sure.
a couple of days.
No problem.
So
But,
I'll hit her up again when she gets back.
Well, if you can, yeah, I'd like to use that maybe to frame some objectives as well.
Yeah,
If
I will-
could, yeah.
when she gets back, I will
We're
ask her
also
again.
gonna have to come to a determination whether we wanna do additional survey questions, and we'll save that. Let's just get started.
Well, let's see what CCL has, because they have just done, questions. I know that they were probing for housing stuff.
Yeah, they were.
So, their stuff is gonna be good and recent, and they really work to get people to respond as well.
Yeah, I know, but let's see what it is, and
Yeah.
then, we need
Okay.
to
Yep.
make that determination.
So what else is left? Families, that's that.
All right,
Now, well, existing
That's all.
resources and housing stock, so the data.
well, that's, I mean, existing resources and housing stock is pretty much gonna reference the reports that we did.
Right.
And we're gonna have to update them,
Workforce
Right.
housing.
which is actually quite a bit of work. Even,
Well, I don't know, the 86 plan, is that what we had? What was our 80s plan?
80s? You mean 1980s?
Yeah, this 1986 was the last master plan.
86, we had a master plan, and that was like 2 master plans ago. That is, so.
86 was the one before,
Before the zoning got.
oh, before zoning,
Yeah,
okay.
before
Yeah, I think
zoning.
it was eight.
There's
Zoning was
probably a
89.
housing chapter in there that would then give us all the information that we had, like collected from the census.
My understanding was there never was a housing chapter.
There's not one in there.
The- I don't know for a fact, but what I was
But,
emphatically told during the last process was that Lyme had never had one, so we should probably make sure.
That's
Yeah, I don't
weird,
remember
because that
one.
was done, at least the regional planning commission worked on that one, and
But-
usually that was like a standard.
Was not a
housing
required
chapter. I know,
chapter.
but, you know, they didn't actually clarify what was required.
So maybe what I
until
was
later.
told was
Yeah.
incorrect.
But the 86 plan might have that older data, because that was done by the regional planning
I
commission.
can try to dig up the
So-
86 plan, see
What did we have? We had 86, and then what was the next one?
Well, there was a real thin one, and then there was 86, which is a fat one.
Right,
And then there was the 90, was there a 90s?
I don't know.
I don't believe so. I
Then
thought
there was
86 was the
nothing
last
until
one.
the
So there
we
was
have now.
nothing until the
Yeah.
2013?
Yeah.
You're kidding.
It took a long time.
Yeah.
Well, honestly, when you have a volunteer board, unless you're.
No, it's a tremendous amount of work, but
Got
that's,
money.
but 86 to 13, help me with the math. 27 years, is that, are we
It's a
talking?
generation.
It's a generation, yeah.
Well, is Hanover, it says 2003, is that the most recent?
No, 2013, oh, so there was a 2003?
I'm saying for Hanover.
Yeah, it
Oh,
was
for
2003.
Yeah, that's 2003 is the last one.
So that's all I know.
So that's
That's
15
another
years.
era.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, it is, that's why, the conclusion was to do the rolling chapters,
Right.
because it's like writing an encyclopedia. It's really difficult.
Yeah, well, it's true, 'cause it takes so long by the time you get done. It's
Well,
like-
that's
it's
part of,
data and then-
just the visioning process, I think was like 2 or 3 years, and then, turnover, and you lose, you just lose so much time in the process. So hopefully this time, by doing doing this as a chapter thing, I hope we should be able to be much faster. All right, anything else on this? Anybody, anything that either of you are excited about doing?
Well, what's
Um,
left, I mean, it's right,
Yeah, there's-
read them all.
Eric's doing the workforce housing, unbeknownst to him.
right.
Yeah, and if he
Do you
needs
wanna
help,
do
I can
something
help
about
him.
history? Why don't you do something, since you're on the historic commission or whatever, do something about the
Yeah.
importance of the historic buildings
Right.
and that, okay?
Okay.
So, and that would be, you know, an early chapter and, you know, architectural styles and
Right.
how the historic district commission, you know, helps preserve the built heritage or something like that.
Right, well, yeah. There's the Heritage Commission,
Well,
and
like,
there's the
Lyme
Lyme
historic.
Historian, who
Yeah.
are totally different.
Yeah.
but-
Well, all right, so this is a starting point, we have stuff to work on.
Yep.
And, but I'd really like to keep this moving, so, because I'm saying this to myself as well as everybody else, so the faster we can get this done, the better.
Yep.
Let's not let this drag on.
Well, the thing to do is, if we can, now that we have an outline and see what our challenges are.
Yeah.
You know, the point is to have people have it into a form that we can agree upon enough to ask the public to
Right.
comment on it before we start having people look at our senior housing zoning amendment, right? So,
Well, let's see,
and the
is that,
senior housing zoning amendment, people should start looking at it
They
in
should-
like November or October.
oh, at the latest.
Well, that's what I'm saying, so, once that gets going, so we really wanna have something.
I mean, I think
read.
people, what's wrong with people looking at that, you know, anytime?
Oh, I guess we could have
Yeah.
people coming in and talking about it now.
Yeah, I mean, I don't see any reason,
Yeah.
I mean, after, you know, it should be after town meeting, because it's just too busy, but I mean, in the spring, I don't see any reason
Okay.
to wait.
Yeah.
Cause everything gets slowed down, there's always stuff that comes up, and then we lose 2 or 3 months, and,
Mhm. Well, weren't we gonna wait to see when the study could be done? Where's that? Cause didn't we ask for
which
that
study?
build out?
Oh, the build out.
Yeah.
Yeah, we should probably wait for the build out. Well, oh, what's the
That's-
status?
I need to call and tell them it's going to happen as long as we get the budget passed, which I expect
Oh,
to.
so we have to wait until we get the,
I can't,
you can't do it before.
I don't have money to
So
pay
you
for
can't
it.
ask until after town meeting.
I can let them know that we want to, and I've been intending to, I just
And-
have
and
been busy getting stuff ready for the lawyers for the lawsuits that have been filed, so.
How many lawsuits are there?
Zoning and planning for the same.
Oh,
Um, So I recently had to just get,
Right.
pull all the record together for the lawyers and read all make sure that their responses were correct.
So, maybe an easy thing to do is, did they send us a contract already? No, have them prepare a contract so it's ready to go, and if we don't get the funding, we have to say, sorry, we can't do it. Or we could go to, like, make an application to Lyme Foundation to pay for that, because that's a reasonable thing to request. But I think what we need to do is get the selectmen to say, yes, that's a good idea, and before an application is made. But to have a contract in hand to know what it costs is, I think, good for the Lyme Foundation to know about, this is really what's gonna be.
Didn't they give us a price?
They gave
They
us a
did.
price, but it was,
That's an estimate,
that was an estimate, so I will contact them, have them start doing the contract, and then by the time that's done, we should be getting through town meeting and.
Yeah, and the other good thing is that, because a lot of towns are going through town meeting now, in terms of regional planning commission time, to get us on their schedule, like if they've already issued a contract, that would be good, because then they won't put us off, because we would want that ASAP.
Yep. So I will call them and get that.
Yeah,
Well,
we
you
should-
can always get the contract, and our lawyers, what we do right now is we put a little blurb in there that's contingent upon approval at town meeting.
Oh, okay. No,
And
so
as
it's a-
long as they accept that,
Right,
That's
well, that's a
So
good
the
idea.
town meeting's coming up in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
So I think by the time we get the contract back from them,
Yep,
we'll probably be
Okay,
pretty
so
close
you'll-
to.
you'll-
it's just
you'll
like,
contact
like
them.
we need a new loader.
right,
We don't wanna, we can't really order it until
Right.
after the warrant article
Yeah.
is approved.
yeah,
What we do is we basically had the bids, decided on which one we want, and gave them a contract contingent on funding at town meeting. And they said, that's fine, that's enough for them to go ahead and order it, because even if something happens, we can't take it, we'll get rid of it, but
So,
otherwise, you're not even starting to build your equipment until after town meeting, and then you don't get it till the middle of the end of summer, because you're behind everybody else who's been ordering.
so they say 13 to 15 hours of work for them. So,
Now it's Megan, not Amber, so, I don't know if it makes a
I don't
difference.
know, but this is what they presented, 13 to 15 hours. So hopefully that we could get that relatively
Yeah,
fast.
yeah, that'd
So,
be important to have, I think, before we really go talking about this.
right, we need that.
Because we might even wanna change it. once we see
Yeah,
what
I think
we
there's a
build
good-
at.
I think there's a good chance
Yeah,
for
yeah.
that. So, apropos to that, we had talked about in this article, the senior housing thing, that you had pointed out a couple of things, and I'm not sure we made the changes, so I just wanna go over that.
Who's you? Me?
You,
I always point
You.
those things out. Okay,
Yeah.
you're pointing at me.
Just the one.
Yeah, I got that. I
okay.
can tell you what they are.
Now, as I recall, you felt that in 13.4, A, which is the applicant must demonstrate that a water supply and septic system can be built and maintained according to the state requirements.
Mhm.
And I thought you were right. Shouldn't be part of the bonus provision, but should be moved up to the dimensional controls and provisions. Yeah. All right, so we need to move that up and make A, E.
Mhm. I only have C.
You only have C?
So that would be D?
No, no.
13.3?
There's a D already.
There's a D, senior housing.
Let me see yours.
uses otherwise.
You must have the bootleg.
Bootleg version.
Yeah, that's why you're, this,
It's better. Oh,
D
you,
would be senior housing.
yeah, my.
Oh,
it's
yours,
an older
you must have
version.
an older version.
Yeah. Okay, well,
This goes up here.
Yeah, and here's
Yeah.
C.
I know, but, and then, I don't know, I mixed use, I've got a bunch of notes. But
Yeah,
okay,
so, yeah,
they've already-
so there's
Yeah,
that.
That's what you can
Okay.
And then the other thing, which I also see on in your notes there, is you talked about wanting to have mixed
Mixed
use.
use, yeah, that's on here too. I'm
That-
singing from the wrong,
Yeah,
Sheet
but
music,
there's
right?
nothing, we didn't do anything about it.
oh, okay.
So what, this would be in the Lyme, as it stands now,
Mhm.
would be in the Lyme Common zoning district.
Right,
So, what is possible there?
Where are you down, mixed use?
yeah, I wrote in mixed use because it's like the Pinnacle Project's problem. Can you, if you have a pre-existing commercial use, or if you wanted to take a building and put both commercial and this senior housing in there, can you do that all in one structure?
Okay,
Just
and you
yeah.
want to
I think that's
enable.
a reasonable thing.
Okay,
if
so
you
then
mix
we
it
need
up.
to say it.
Yeah, so that it can be mixed with other non-residential uses.
So can you come up with a language to add for that?
Okay, yes, yep,
And then, and then give it to David.
yes. Yep.
So, I can give you this, or do you need it, this to get that switch from?
Yeah, if I can have,
Alright.
let me just grab a photocopy of it, and then I can,
Alright, and then you'll give him
Yes,
the
the one,
necessary
the new
language.
deed.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's very likely that, this was written as just to get going, I think it very likely will change. Stay awake.
I am.
All right, any other comments on Article potential Article 13.
I'm sure we'll have other ones.
All right. Look at that. Oh, you were gonna look into local ag soil people.
The guy, yep.
Yeah.
I'm not.
Okay, could you
But I
do that?
can, yes.
Or wait for
Yeah.
David to come back first. So we were talking about bees.
I told you most everything I know.
Yeah, it's most everything I wanted to know too, so.
They're coming back.
Are they?
Last year was the first time, I used to have all kinds of bumblebees. They had nests up in the rafters. Yeah. And all of a sudden, one year, they were gone. I didn't see a bee for 3 or 4 years. And last year, I saw bees again. Bumblebees were back.
Okay.
Thank you.
Well, we need them.
Yeah, I was really surprised when they just flat out disappeared.
Be interesting to see what happens this week, after this week.
They say the monarchs are coming back. We saw a monarch, 2 monarchs last year.
All right, okay, so Vicky's going to get,
Sorry,
contact people about
Yeah.
looking into the local ag soils.
Yeah.
The other thing I thought we should go over was the thing that Rusty raised about the conservation lot definition. I think we can do better on this definition. It's on page 5, at least this is the old one.
It's 2005, it's the latest version. So they subdivision regulations, Tim, not the zoning.
Oh, I got it in the zoning.
Oh, the zoning ones, so.
Yeah. Are they the same?
I don't know.
We've got to
Good
make
question.
sure.
Yeah.
Because that was the problem with
Sounds
the
like dwelling unit.
dwelling unit, yeah.
It's on page 6.
Page 6 of which?
The yellow.
Zoning,
The zoning. Okay.
Page 4 of the subdivision.
Page 4, conservation lot, let's just see if it's the same. Let's- It looks like the same thing. Okay. So I think the problem with this is, like with the, what was it called, the Chesley School?
Yeah.
Chesley School, and then this last one, there isn't an explicit, description of how to handle when the potential conservation lot is being created by a subdivision.
David, is there a state definition of a conservation lot, or is it only
No.
us?
Not that I know of.
No, other towns have it,
There's nothing on the state level.
no.
Well, I don't think that would help us anyway.
No, but I was just curious.
Well, it seems that the board could approve a lot to be a conservation lot.
Yeah.
Well, we did.
Which is
Right, but that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Be
Oh, I
explicit
think-
in the decision that,
Yeah, I think the decision was fine, it's just that it could be clearer.
I
There's a-
think Rusty is very much against conservation.
Yeah,
And he is, any lot that is put into conservation, he's going to be against.
no, but putting that aside,
But-
the ideological aspect, I'm just seeing if there's a way to make this clearer.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's fine as is, I'm just seeing it is, could it
Or
be
you
better?
could put in a sentence at the end saying that the planning board may approve a conservation lot prior to the easement being placed, or, something to that effect, to say, you're approving this to be a conservation lot, not you're approving a conservation lot, because it,
Yeah, we're proving it
and then again, that could be just,
Well,
with the
I think
idea.
where the question came up with that particular one wasn't so much it was being subdivided to create a lot that was gonna be good in conservation.
Right.
It was being subdivided for the purpose of putting a lot in conservation that still had to be sold to, it wasn't the property owner who actually
right.
Owned it.
Right.
And the same thing with the school.
The same thing with the
It's
Chesley
exactly the
School.
same thing.
Right.
It was the
So they, I mean,
purchaser who
Yeah,
was
that,
going
and that
to.
could come up a lot.
that's gonna come
because-
up from time to time.
Well, because that's often the way it's
That's the
done.
way it's done.
Yeah,
And,
so.
I mean, I think it's okay the way it is, but it could be better. So anybody have any feelings about that?
Well, if
Well,
we
what,
make it
what, so,
clear, yeah.
what do you wanna do?
I don't know. That's why
Well,
I'm
we
asking
can,
you.
somehow we can, I don't know how we word it, but we can say that the planning board can create a conservation lot, even if it's not
No,
owned. I mean, you have to, you know, if we're gonna cover that, we have to say that we can do it before the person owns it, it's gonna
Oh.
put easement on
Hi, okay.
okay.
it, right?
Um,
I mean, I don't know how we say that.
Yeah,
but that's-
I mean,
That's what
I-
we wanna say, that's what we wanna do.
I think, yeah, what we wanna be able to do is that when we don't wanna, keep people from being able to do what they're planning to do with property they're gonna be owning.
Right, but if the difficulty is that the person doesn't own it yet, it's gonna put easement on it.
Yeah, well,
you know, then
that's,
we have to,
all right, well, wait till Vicky's back.
yeah, I don't know how we would say that, it's like, but,
So, let me get the sense of the board. Is there, do people feel like it's fine the way it is, leave it well enough alone, or is it worth tinkering with?
well, it seems
Well, I mean, it's
like,
worth considering if it can be improved.
yeah,
Sure.
because if it's gonna come up a lot, like the thing with.
Well, it's
with
come up,
Danny
it's
Green
come
and-
up twice
and Bob
now
Wetzel.
in what, 3 or 4 years?
Yeah.
Yeah, it would be nice to
Which is a
clarify.
lot for Lyme.
If we can do it, we have to clarify.
All right, so, anybody wanna take a stab at, I mean, I tried, but I
So what are
don't.
you trying to do, though?
But we're trying to say that the planning board can create a conservation lot.
No,
Or could we-
we're not, we can't create I mean,
Well, we can create a lot.
no,
that-
we're approving a conservation lot, it's,
You're
Okay,
approving a
without-
restriction on a
yeah, it's
subdivided
not,
lot.
Right, without the person owning it that is gonna put the
The
easement on.
restriction is actually on the person who currently owns it. You can't put a restriction on somebody who might
Right.
buy it down the road.
and in each case with the Chesley School and with Danny Green, that was fine with them. So, the issue is just, can it be clarified?
The issue is who you trust, I mean, I hate to get down to that, but who you trust.
Yeah, no, what happens if Danny Green goes out and gets hit by a car tomorrow? And the sale never goes through?
Well, then it becomes a non-buildable lot,
Right,
is what it becomes,
and they have to come back, somebody has to come
Well,
back.
how does it become a non-buildable lot?
because that's a definition of a non-buildable lot. A conservation lot would, has to have a conservation easement on it.
Put on by somebody.
Okay, so, we approve that as a non-buildable lot, is that what we said?
No,
Well, you did, in the approval, you said that it was I forget how-
Not used for building purposes, which is like the state.
right,
mandate.
it was not, it was non-buildable, but you couldn't
you couldn't build.
residential. I
On
think you
his,
look at
on
the-
his property. But,
But no, on the actual southern,
yeah, on the conservation
yeah,
lot,
you said you would put in conditions
right.
saying
And
that.
then we didn't require a septic test and all that.
Because it was not, essentially non-buildable.
Right, it was gonna be non-buildable because the conservation easement was gonna be.
I mean, technically, if they you know, the sale didn't go through, and they decided they wanted to develop it, they could come back to the planning board with all that information and ask for the planning board to change that.
Right. Right.
So I think,
That's
it may
true.
be more procedural than a definition
Right.
of conservation lot, that you, in your procedure, if you're going to do a conservation lot, you define it, saying that, you know, in your findings, saying it was presented to the board that it will be a conservation lot, so that lot is not, you know, there will be no building on that lot, no development on that lot.
Right.
But
And
isn't
then-
that the point, that if the board approves a non-buildable lot, that automatically takes away the value, so that the person who's gonna be the receiver, and is potentially giving away the value by donating an easement or whatever, actually is getting a property that doesn't have that, and then you're messing up the value of the property by making it not buildable.
Only in the way that if, that they can come back in the future and now say, we messed up, we didn't do it as a conservation lot, we didn't sell those rights, so we wanna make it buildable and present all the proper information, the board can.
Yeah, but what if they can't, I mean, because it technically is all wetland and they can't get a, you know, they need
Then-
a million variances and special
That's life.
exceptions.
Um,
Well, no, it's not really.
But you wouldn't have approved it as a building lot
Initially.
initially.
I understand that.
All right, so what I would suggest is
I
that,
agree with you that it's a process thing, but I mean, I understand the intent, but I don't get how even approving it as a non-buildable lot, if anybody who's doing, you know, an appraisal of that lot would see that there were restrictions on it that took away the development value.
No, that does make sense,
Yeah.
but
Well, but there are restrictions until they're put on, right?
Yeah, there are,
restrictions
if
on it.
we say it's not buildable, and they gotta come back here, I mean. But, I mean,
Yeah.
okay, I'm just saying, that is a process thing, I was looking at the content, and that there are probably other things besides road frontage, which we would allow the lot not to have in order to create a conservation lot.
okay, so what I would,
That's what I was thinking, is that there are probably other
well, you can
lots
just say
that we-
among other things.
Right, yeah,
But,
Right,
so,
yes.
anybody who's interested, please work on language for this. I tried and I don't think I really succeeded, so.
well, see, I'm still unclear about what we're doing.
Well, you know what, stay unclear, because just read it
Yeah.
and see if, you know, just read it with the idea of can you make this a better definition?
Well, I think it's really clear for what it is.
Okay.
Um,
Yeah, this is clear, I think, this definition.
I just wanted to follow up on that.
But I'm not sure it's addressing
Yeah, this is.
the problem, the timing problem, which is the process thing that
It's a
Peter's
process.
talking about, yeah.
Yeah,
and it's not something that you can place on as a condition of
right,
the subdivision, because if a new owner is putting the conservation easement on, then you can't meet the condition to say it's a lot.
right.
And so it's almost, the board has to have faith in the applicants that they're gonna follow through.
Well, I mean, we could request a letter of intent from the conservation organization.
Or you could request a copy of the proposed easement.
Right, I mean, there are things we can do.
But if the person,
But that's also procedural, I mean, that's
Yeah,
something we
well,
can.
absolutely,
yeah.
it's procedural. I don't think changing the definition,
Right.
that there's a way of changing it
Right.
to eliminate the
It's-
problem.
it's really
The problem
procedural.
is procedural.
right,
Yeah,
And, you know, it's in some cases putting the cart before the
So-
horse.
Yeah.
A lot is a lot, that's how we get there.
but if the procedure stops for some reason, you know, that the two parties decide they don't wanna do what they said they were gonna do, and, I mean, to be specific, if Bob Weston says he doesn't wanna buy that anymore, then it all starts over again, right? It goes back to square one.
Well, no, he still has a lot, but the board has said that it's intended to be a conservation lot, so it is kind of in
Right, then they
limbo.
come back and they say, well, we're not gonna do a conservation
Right,
lot.
in that case,
So then they
then,
start over again, we're back to square one, and we just do
yeah, you
whatever.
can then present the information that they, you know, were, the information that was waived, the septic information and
Right.
all the access information, and then,
It would be a break, yeah,
then the board could then approve it as a,
or approve it or not.
or not, if it's not buildable.
Right, yeah, so it,
All right, so we need to really concentrate when those cases come up on the procedural stuff and, all right, well, so worthy exercise.
And it might not be bad to put that in the subdivision regulations, you know, for a procedure for approving
That's
a
a good
conservation lot, just to have it down so that.
Right.
Yeah, I'm just looking at this Dover, New Hampshire conservation lot, and they talk about following a specific procedure. Just interesting to see other people have done.
So could you, for next time, just print that and print that out and we can take a look at it?
Yeah, it'd be
That'd be great.
interesting to see research
Yeah.
on that.
And then my next question is, who is going to be at Little Town Meeting? Show of hands. Well, you're gonna be there, you're gonna be there as a
He
select,
laughs.
and the select board celebrating. So, yeah,
Wearing his
so,
party hat.
so it's just me?
you're not gonna,
I'm,
you're gonna be in Florida too, right?
oh, is that
March
the first,
6th.
yeah.
Yeah, so
See, that's
it's
the
it's
problem.
just
I'm not
me?
gonna be, 'cause
I'm not gonna be vacationing, I'm at work, sorry.
Thank you, everybody, for,
Has Kevin Peterson gotten hold of you?
about what?
You
Little
told,
town meeting,
He just called me, he's home.
Why is he calling me about what?
to make sure that you were going to be there too.
Well, apparently I'm the only one who's gonna be there.
well,
Amber
Eric,
might be.
and Eric,
They're not even here tonight.
no, but Eric,
We'll sign them.
Eric's
They have to
father told
attend.
me he was gonna be there, so,
Yeah.
whatever that's.
Anyway, yeah, because Rich is gonna go after me
But Vicky
hard.
wants to talk to you about that, Little Town Meeting, got that?
What?
Vicky wants to talk
No,
to you
I
about
don't think that you need to defend or do anything about the petition amendment. Don't worry about that. That's up to the petitioners to.
Oh, I know, I just think it's nice to have other people from the board there so that I'm not the only one speaking on behalf of the board.
So what, you just have to say you didn't support it.
You do it so eloquently.
Oh, yes, oh, yes.
I mean,
Yeah, okay, fine.
I know that you're gonna be in the minority of people who are speaking, but, sorry.
So I hope you all have a very good time wherever you are.
I'm gonna be at a zoning hearing in Hanover, so if you'd like to switch spots.
I'll do that. I'll make that deal. I'll make that deal. All right. I got more stuff on here, but I think we got a lot of homework.
We're not doing it tonight.
So, anybody else got anything?
So, yes, I do have something, because our next meeting is the same night as the school meeting.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so,
Do you wanna cancel?
I think
Or
we
change
should,
it, cancel or change it.
well, one or the other. Do we have any cases?
There's nothing pending.
Right, so I think,
Well, what is the
I think we should cancel.
the
and
pleasure of the board?
go to
How do
school
people
meeting.
feel? Yeah, I mean, it would be nice to have the option to go to the school
We
meeting.
should go to the school
Yeah.
meeting,
Yeah, vote.
Has that always happened?
yes. it
People
always
ought to be
happens.
meeting out shortly after that, between little town meeting, the school meeting, and then town meeting the following Tuesday.
Right, well, but
And there was
School
just a
meetings.
budget meeting.
No. So,
Yeah, but this happens every year, doesn't it? It's
it
so-
does,
It
but
does.
we don't cancel, it's just the town, the
That's
school
what
never
usually,
changes.
most years you have canceled.
yeah,
happen.
we don't have plenty more of the night of the school meeting, you never have that.
Oh, yes, we
Yeah,
have.
we do.
Yeah.
There's
I've been here
actually,
lots of
Sure.
nights.
Yeah.
there's
Well,
one.
no, I'm not
I
sure about
remember
anything.
Well, that's great.
One night anyway that the board had hearings, but
Yeah,
that was just, couldn't cancel, but
yeah.
for the most part,
Yeah, I think for the most part.
All right.
When
The
there's
question is
been-
whether we wanna cancel, I mean, do we have things that
No.
we
all-
need to do?
All of our assignments, yes.
Well, the assignments have to be done.
Right, but I mean, other stuff that would slow things up, I guess not.
What we could do is say that that's the due date for our assignments to go to,
You mean the next meeting?
no, by the school meeting.
That would be the
So,
next meeting.
and to what end if we weren't here?
We hand them into David, that gives us a deadline on when we.
Okay.
I mean, that could be,
All right.
we can sit and write it during the school meeting with the board.
No,
No,
if-
okay. I mean, we could do that.
Except I'm gonna be gone.
You gotta take your computer with you. On
He
vacation.
has to figure out how to work the
Right.
computer first.
The cord, there's a long cord that goes.
The gerbil who powers his computer is slowing down.
Yeah.
Um,
No. Actually, we're pretty computer savvy.
You can forward you.
Is that the royal you mean Lynn?
Yeah, right.
Maybe the
Okay.
bee stings
Yeah.
good.
All right, well, okay, let's try to have our, God, that's gonna be hard to get that done in
What?
2 weeks.
Well, okay, then
But-
you're the chairman, I was just doing.
No, I think the
We
more,
should go
the
to
more
school
pressure we
meeting.
put on ourselves, the better, because everything gets slowed down. So let's try to get that stuff into David.
By the 8th,
Is it the 8th?
yeah,
the 8th or the 6th?
no, it's the 8th, the 6th is
Sixth is
Tuesday,
a
Little
little
Town.
town.
Oh,
Little
Little
Town.
Town, all right.
Yeah, yeah.
That's where John gets to explain all
Zoning amendment.
Yeah,
zoning amendments.
Yeah.
I have to do, like, what were we thinking?
It was Vicky's idea.
I have no clue what this means.
All right,
We could
388.
give you some cards.
Okay.
Randomly.
Calm down, you're you're so happy because you're not, so
I got my own
3/8/18, all of our stuff is
And
due.
Eric's assignment, is everyone gonna call him and explain
Somebody,
what he's
somebody
supposed
should
to do?
tell him.
In case he doesn't read the minutes.
Three, hold on, so I'm supposed to do. Intro.
Send an email saying the board expresses its extreme thank you for taking on all this.
Taking on
work.
the most difficult stuff.
No, he's
No, that
familiar
should
with
be
the stuff,
fine, yeah.
it's not that bad.
All right, what else?
There are 2 new sets of minutes from the Lyme Community Development Committee that got posted today.
Oh,
Just so,
That's
and the
good.
letter was sent to Mills.
good, thank you.
They're on the town website.
Yeah, they're on the town website.
And, that's it that's all you got?
That's all surprisingly.
Sir, anything?
I always get something.
All right, Jay, it's been real, it's gonna be really weird not having you around. But I hope you really enjoy, you paid your dues. I hope you enjoy your freedom, and thank you.
I wanna know, what are you gonna do on Thursday nights?
Oh, I'll probably think of something.
Yeah.
VFW's over.
Yeah.
So do we know who the new select board representative would be?
The only one out of select board rep, I don't know.
They have to vote on that.
They'll, once the election is over, and the new selectman is sworn in, then they'll sit there and divide up from there.
All right, lady and gentlemen,
What about the audience, our viewing
and public.
And as always, thank you, folks. I appreciate the work you do.
Exciting
Thank you.
night.
I appreciate that.
Better than TV.
And,
This is TV,
and thank you for being our public,
Yeah.
and the viewing public,
and the viewing public.
virtual viewing public.